distance. Ain't no telling what I just may do. I've been vibing, minding my business. Throw one up if you can relate to. Said if I ain't got it, I make do. Can't be stuck waiting on a breakthrough. And I don't need everybody praying for it. Ain't no telling who you niggas pray to.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of D's Corner. I'm your host, D, where we got you on lock with all your NFL football news, updates, and everything. It's already jumping into a crazy offseason. Free agency hasn't even started yet. We've seen trades. Debo got traded to the Commanders. Joey Bosa was released. Trey Hendricks has requested a trade. Jacksonville seems like they were dumping everybody. Christian Kirk traded to the Texans. They released Evan Ingram. It's been crazy, man, already. Some of these moves have already happened, in the midst of me trying to make these videos and whatnot. So if I touch on them, I touch on them. If not, you guys know what happened. Do me a favor, guys. Like, share, and subscribe. Does me a lot of good. I truly appreciate it. I'm going to jump right into my video. Here we are. We got NFL Offseason Outlook. I'm going to start with the NFC. First up, we got the Super Bowl champs, the Philadelphia Eagles. As you can see, some of their key free agents, they already re-signed Zach Bond, which was a major deal. Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, and Mekhi Becton. These players may get priced out of the Eagles' price range. They already have re-upped Saquon as well, so that does give them a little bit more cap space. Some of the draft targets I think they should look at is Jihad Campbell out of Alabama. Physical linebacker, instinctive and smart, will fit well in this 3-4. Vic Fangio attack defense and can cover, can blitz. As we've seen, Fangio can get home with 4. That was evident in the Super Bowl. But I think Jihad will be a really good pickup for them, as well as Mike Green, edge out of Marshall. Some of the trade candidates they have, Jordan Davis is the nose tackle, and Bryce Huff, who they re-signed, or they signed last year away from the Jets. He hadn't really played much, didn't do much of anything, get to see the field very much as well. Do they want to hold on to him? Was he signed to replace Josh Sweat? Was he unable to get the defense? Not really sure what it is, but with Robert Saleh being back in San Francisco, that could be a good place, a good destination for Bryce Huff, who played under Saleh with the New York Jets. And one of their moves that I think they should make is trade for Myles Garrett. Go big or go home. They're already shoring up the cap space situation. They have Jordan Davis and Bryce Huff that they can use as trade leverage. They released Darius Slay, who was not on my slide here, but if they went out and got Myles Garrett, they are letting the NFC know that we are and will be the team to beat. Pairing Myles Garrett with not Jordan Davis, with Jalen Carter, Zach Bond behind him, that young secondary, man, this defense would be unfreaking stoppable. Next up, we got the Washington Commanders, who have a pretty good amount of cap space with $78 million. Some of their key free agents, Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz, they just re-upped Bobby Wagner on another 1-year deal, so that really shores up the veteran leadership that they had on this defense. Some players that I think they should go out and attempt to sign. Azeez Ojulari from the New York Giants is an edge, something that they need, and you're kind of weakening a division opponent. And Julian Blackman, who's a safety, he can play in the nickel as well. He can be a move piece for Dan Quinn in this defense. Some draft targets. Jalen Walker, I feel like, is a poor man's Michael Parsons, or Dan Quinn could use him as such. Even though he's played more traditional linebacker than Micah did, but he's able to get after it all over the field. And I think pairing Mason Taylor with his college quarterback, they need a tight end. Zach Ertz is a free agent. Even if they bring him back, he is a little bit long in the tooth, as the saying goes. But Mason Taylor with Deebo Samuel, Scary Terry, solid run game, that would be a nice weaponry, a nice arsenal for Jaden Daniels. The move I think they should make is go out and sign Ronnie Staley. He wouldn't have to move very far, and this would be a sure stance of we're trying to build around Jaden, allow him to have the best offensive line that he can have. Ronnie just had a very good, healthy season. Finally, he has dealt with some injuries, but I don't know that you'd have to necessarily break the bank, but you would be able to get him with the cap space that they do, in fact, have. And I think this is not a very strong tackle free agency class. I think it would probably be Ronnie Staley and maybe Cam Robinson. Now we have the Dallas Cowboys who re-signed a Diggy Zuwa. They just cleared some more cap space, so I believe this was updated with the restructuring of Dak and CD. But they do still have to pay Micah. You got to get that done. Some of their key free agents, DeMarcus Lawrence and Brandon Cooks. I don't think they'll be bringing back Brandon Cooks. DeMarcus Lawrence possibly could come back. He almost feels like a Cowboy through and through, but we've seen the Cowboys through and through play on other teams. So we'll see where that goes with him. Could he go and follow his former defensive coordinator to the big city, the big capital, Washington? We'll see. Some free agent fits that I think will be good, especially now that they've cleared up some cap space. Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones plays phenomenal in Cowboy Stadium. I don't know what it is, but he's a Texas kid. I think that would be a really good hoorah for him, last hoorah, because I think this would be his last contract. And Will Fries is a guard from the Colts. Play decently. I don't think this would be a big money that you would have to attach to Will because he has had injuries, but you do have to now try to build up your offensive line when Zach Martin has retired. Your starting left tackle probably should be your starting right tackle, your guard, your starting left guard that you drafted to be left tackle. So, I mean, there's a lot of mix and matching, but it's going to be tough when you have pretty much a lame duck coach. That's just what it is. Some draft targets, Tyler Booker to help replace Zach Martin, the guard from Alabama, and Travion Henderson, a running back from Ohio State. Can pass block, can run, can catch, is fast, contact balance, everything you need. This would Jerry want to go Zeke 2.0 in a sense, just saying that the back from Ohio State. But we do know one thing. This is a kid that once he touches the field, he would not have to come off because he is so good and so dynamic as a pass blocker as he is as a runner. And a trade candidate, I'm just saying this would possibly be Trayvon Diggs. Obviously, these are just players that I feel that they can and have that can acquire assets for. I don't necessarily think that they'll do it. But Trayvon Diggs, I think, could possibly get you maybe a third and some because of his age, but he is coming off of 2 seasons ending on IR. And a move I think they should make with Matt Eberflus now being their defensive coordinator, go out and sign EJ Speed. You need a linebacker. EJ knows what he's doing in this defense. He'll be a somewhat version of what Darius Leonard was when he got to the Colts. Not saying that he would be a defensive player of the year or anything like that, but he would be a damn good, solid linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys. Last up for the NFC East is the New York Giants, which I don't have on here anything about Aaron Rodgers, but it's just been reported. I just saw that they are in talks, and I guess he could possibly be signed before this video even airs or whatnot. But I didn't think this would be a good place for him as at this stage in his career, and I didn't think that this that they, as the Giants, would want him coming in. To me, it would just scream desperation. This coach and this GM and now the quarterback all on their last leg. What's going to happen? Aaron's not a good leader, regardless of what people think and say about him off the field. He's not a good leader on the field. There's I don't think this would be a good fit. So they're free agents. Azeez Ojulari, Isaiah Simmons is their do-all defender, but they had him at safety. Darius Slayton at wide receiver. Some of the key fits, I think, in the free agent market would be Tevin Jenkins from Chicago Bears and Brian Murphy, the corner from Minnesota. Some draft targets, Cam Ward in the first. They may have to trade up for him. I think honestly, I think him or Shador would be a good fit. Young, seem like both of them have their head on right. They both played under multiple coordinators. Um, Cam is the more dynamic, Shador is the more accurate. But either way you go, but I just think with what Brian Daboll likes to run, I think a more athletic quarterback would be better suited. And Donovan Jackson, who's do all offensive lineman, played offensive guard, should probably still stay at guard, but was able to kick out when they had injuries out there at Ohio State. And the move to make, like I said, draft Cam Ward. Go out, get you Cam Ward, build up around him. You'll already have your quarterback. You'll have a dynamic wide receiver in Malik Neighbors. You have a pretty solid defense. Go out and this is a solid running back draft. This is a solid wide receiver draft. You can get you some tight ends. I think they'll have to fix their offensive line situation in free agency. One of their trade candidates is Evan Neal. Don't know who will really want him, how bad he has played. However, he is a former first-round pick, he was a real good recruit, was a damn good player at Alabama. Don't really know what happened to him when he got to the league. Now we're going to head to the NFC North, and we have the Detroit Lions. Some of their key free agents, Kevin Zeitler, offensive guard, Carlton Davis III. They have about $52 million in cap space. Not a lot of movement thus far coming out of Detroit outside of you lost your offense and defensive coordinator. What are we going to do now offensively? What are we going to look like defensively? You don't really know, but some of those free agent fits. This was a team that defensively they had so many injuries last year, and Aaron Glenn was able to do somewhat magic by having everybody who touched that field defensively. They were playing their lights. They were playing lights out. They were playing their tails off for Aaron Glenn, which should help out the New York Jets if he's able to take and get that same production out of anybody that he coaches with the Jets. Some free agency fits. Charvarius Ward, the corner from San Francisco, and Khalil Mack. You need some more edge. Khalil Mack is still a pretty good run defender as well. We're not asking him to play every down. We're just going to need you to come in on the money down. Playing opposite of Aiden Hutchinson, you still do have Zadarius Smith that they traded for the trade deadline during the season. So Khalil Mack, I think this will be a good place for Khalil Mack to finally call home and be done as his career winds down. Some draft targets: Shamar Stewart, who had a hell of a combine, the edge out of Texas A&M, 6'5", almost 270, ran a 4.5. Can play up and down the offense. I mean, up and down that defensive line. That's something that I believe that the Detroit Lions are going to focus on, is that defensive front. They invested heavily in that young secondary. And Kenneth Grant, the nose tackle from Michigan. Big body, can move, can clog the running lanes, but he can get off blocks and get after the quarterback as well. A trade candidate I don't think a lot of people are considering is Hendon Hooker, the quarterback. He got hurt a couple years ago playing with Tennessee. He's an older quarterback, but he's a pro's pro. He's athletic, should be able to get a crack. Teams that I think could be interested, obviously the New York Jets. Where are you going to go? You're picking, I think, 7th. They're expecting the top 2 quarterbacks to go before then. Do you want to trade and lose assets? I don't know. The Indianapolis Colts, who said that they wanted to bring in some competition for Anthony Richardson. I think those are probably the main 2, but maybe the Las Vegas Raiders as well. But a move that I think the Detroit Lions should make: go out and trade for Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson. He just reported. It just came out. He wants a trade. The Bengals are going to allow him to seek a trade. Detroit should be able to send a first-round pick. They're picking later in the draft. If they don't send a first, they are still okay with the team and the roster that they have assembled. Next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings, who some of their key free agents: Byron Murphy, Aaron Jones, and we already know about the Sam Darnold situation. They actually have a decent amount of money with $63 million in cap space. Some of their free agent fits that I think should happen are Javon Holland. I think he would be able to come in. He hasn't been the same Javon Holland that Brian Flores drafted, because he got injured. But, as he comes back, he's still young enough to bounce back. I think he would be a good fit in this system, especially since you have Harrison Smith, who is on his last legs, and Cameron Bynum, who is a free agent. And Will Fry is the offensive guard for the Indianapolis Colts. Some draft targets: Nick Imawari, safety out of South Carolina, 6'3", 220, 43-inch vert, ran a 4.3, can cover, can play deep safety, can play in the box, can play over the slot, can man up with tight ends, like just a do-it-all guy. I think he would be phenomenal replacing Harrison Smith or Malachi Starks, the safety from Georgia. He's also a do-it-all safety, but he's more so a true back-end defender, very intelligent. Had a down year this year, but a very good player all around. And move to make, I think, sign Trayvon Moehrig, the safety from the Raiders. Again, I think he's 26, so he's another young safety. You're going to have to replace that secondary. Byron Jones, your best corner, he's a free agent. You're getting your best safety, and Cam Bynum is a free agent. Harrison Smith, like I said, is long in the tooth, could possibly be a cap casualty this season, this offseason. Never know, so we'll see how that goes. The Green Bay Packers, I don't think that they have necessarily any serious key free agents, people that I think that they have to re-sign. They do have $48 million worth in cap space. Some free agent fits that I think would be good would be Kendall Fuller and Nate Hobbs. That are going to need some secondary help. Eric Stokes, I believe, is a free agent, but there's talks of trading Jair Alexander. Kendall Fuller, who's been released by the Dolphins, Nate Hobbs, a free agent of the Raiders, can both play outside or inside. Kendall Fuller can play safety. He can play nickel. He can play outside. He can do a lot that you need him to do. Draft targets: Jahdae Barron from Texas, who's another move piece in that secondary, but his 4.4 40 at the combine showed that he can play outside. A lot of people like him as a nickel, maybe in that Cooper DeJean mode. But he can play outside. Or Trey Thomas is the corner from Ole Miss, another big body guy. He showed at the combine that he can run, he can cover, he's a physical guy, so maybe they go that route to replace one of their trade candidates, Jair Alexander or Quay Walker. It's been talks about trading Quay, who I guess they feel like has played down. Some of the things that I personally think about Quay Walker is I think he's played decently for Green Bay. I just think in the wrong moments he's had bonehead mistakes. He's consistently had flags thrown on him at the wrong time. I want to say he's even been ejected once or twice for the same thing. So I think the immaturity issue is there with him. And a move I think that the Packers should make is sign Baron Browning from the Broncos, the edge from the Broncos. Actually, he got traded to the Cardinals, if I'm not mistaken. But he is a player who's going to be able to get after it. Shouldn't cost you a lot of money, and is a player that they can move around. They still have Lucas Van Ness. They have Rashawn Gary. They traded away Preston Smith. I can't think of the other edge they have, but they're like the Steelers. They're known for having those edge defenders. Baron Brown is one that I think would be a perfect fit for Green Bay. And lastly, with the NFC North, we have the Chicago Bears, who new coach Brian Johnson from the Detroit Lions has already went out and started making moves, ensuring that Caleb Williams is protected. They traded for Jonah Jackson from the Rams, and the big trade that they made is they traded a 4th-round pick in 2026 for Joe Thuney of the Chiefs, forgive me. And he's played guard and tackle. I'm pretty sure he's going to play guard. Jonah Jackson's probably going to be your center. You still have Daniil Wright from last year or the year before at your right tackle position. So you're starting to beef up that offensive line. Some of their key free agents, Keenan Allen and Tevin Jenkins, who they are obviously not going to re-sign and bring back Mr. Jenkins, but Keenan Allen, we'll see where that goes. With his age, with where he plays and how he plays, I could see him possibly wanting to play for a contender. A free agent fit, Ronnie Stanley from the Ravens and Chase Young of the Saints. Chase played in Dennis Allen's defense, and this is their defensive coordinator. And you're pairing him back with Montez Sweat, and they both played together with the Commanders at the time. I think it was like Washington football team. The biggest thing that I think free agents see now, if they go out and sign Ronnie Stanley, they have the money to do it. Your offensive line is set. We know what Ben Johnson wants to do. He's going to run the ball. We know the plays and stuff. We know how creative he is offensively. And Caleb is a more athletic player than Jared Goff. Some draft targets if the Will Campbell, if the Ronnie Stanley situation doesn't go through. And the Chicago Bears, stay tuned for Monday, my mock drafts. I do mock draft Monday. Make sure y'all check those out. But the Chicago Bears are a team that I truly think at 10 could take Ashton Genty. Ben Johnson was the offensive coordinator the year that they traded DeAndre Swift to the Philadelphia Eagles. I want to say that was his first, maybe his second year there. I don't know if it was Dan Campbell or if it was a Ben Johnson or what, but DeAndre Swift is on this team. So now he's a trade candidate because I think that Ben Johnson is going to want his type and his style of backs, a power back, a speed back who can turn his speed into power. And I think Genty is both. He has good contact balance and everything. Wasn't asked to catch the ball a lot out of the backfield, but I'm sure they'll be able to get one. Dylan Sampson is a player that they could probably pair from the SEC in Tennessee. Trade candidates, Kevin Bayard the third is a safety who probably will be a cap casualty. He'll probably be cut. And DeAndre Swift that we were just talking about. And like I've already stated, the big move that they made was trading for Joe Thuney. The NFC South, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have only $9 million in cap space. They're going to have to make some moves and do some things. Some of their key free agents, Chris Godwin and Levante David, these are the stalwart Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They have spent their entire career here. Will Levante David give it one more hurrah? Will he hang it up? Will he attempt to go to another team? See how that goes. Now, Chris Godwin, on the other hand, got injured. I believe he fractured his ankle or dislocated his ankle a year after, I believe, tearing his ACL, maybe 2 years. Maybe he's going on 2 years from that, removed from that ACL injury. Say they want him back, see what his market looks like, see what they're able to bring him back in. And to be honest with you, it sucks to say right now you're damaged goods. You got to see how everything responds. So he may not have a huge market outside of Tampa Bay. Some of the free agent fits, Josh Palmer. You're going to need some bodies at that wide receiver position. Josh Palmer showed that he can play when called upon. He can be your third or fourth wide receiver. And Ernest Jones is a linebacker who moved around. I believe he was traded from the Rams to the Titans, from the Titans to the Seahawks, but he found a home in Seattle where he played, and we showed that he's a tackling machine. I think Todd Bowles will do really good with, or Ernest Jones will do very well in the Todd Bowles system. I don't believe that they have really any trade candidates, maybe Rachaad White, but I don't know why they would trade him as he is a young back who has been producing. Some of the draft targets, Jihad Campbell, who's a player who can play on the line at the linebacker and he can play on the edge, do it all linebacker. Also, Jalen Walker from Georgia. And a wide receiver to give him would be Luther Burden, the third from Missouri. I believe that he will slide a bit because pretty much he had the same exact team this year that he had last year, and his production was just so far off. I mean, it's just going to have, teams, how teams can just start overthinking and over questioning things. And a move to make draft Jihad Campbell. I think this is the best linebacker in the draft. He's instinctive. He's big. He showed at the combine that he's athletic and he's fast, and he's a tackling machine, extremely smart, extremely versatile. He actually went to Bama as an edge defender, but they had Dallas Hunter and Will Anderson on the field. They moved him to middle linebacker just so that they could get the guy on the field, and he excelled there. So, I think Jihad is going to be a breakout player. Now we got the Atlanta Falcons, who are in the negatives. They are in the red. They have negative $5 million worth of cap space. So free agency fits, I don't have any. You need to worry about trying to clear cap space right now. So some of their key free agents, Justin Simmons and Matthew Judon, I don't believe that either would be back. I think both are getting up there in age and both want to win and win now. So like I said, I don't have any free agency fits, but some draft targets I do have would be Will Johnson, the corner from Michigan. Had an injury, didn't participate in the combine. I think he'll be prepared for his, or he'll be ready for his pro day. 6'1", nice size. I think he's about 180 something. But pairing him with AJ Terrell would be a nice young duo in that secondary. Or James Pierce Jr., the edge from Tennessee, fastest edge at the combine, 4.47. Smooth, can get after the quarterback. Both of these players are players that I think Raheem Morris would love to have. Some trade candidates for the Falcons. Grady Jarrett, this would be a way to get off of an older player and off some of that money, help clear up some cap space. Kirk Cousins, you're going to have to get rid of Kirk because he just didn't look well. Kyle Pitts, for some reason, it just has not panned out. It just has not worked out. Some of my buddies who are Falcons fans, I told last year and even this year, I want to see him play with the Kansas City Chiefs. I want to see him be able to be mentored for a year behind Travis Kelce, learning how Travis Kelce sees the field, learning how to be more of a professional, being able to not just rely solely on his athleticism and get back to the player he was at the University of Florida. And playing with Patrick Mahomes, I think, will make him step his game up. But a move that I think that they should make, everybody's gonna have to try and trade for Trey Hendrickson. They do not have the money right now. Maybe they could sweeten the deal with Grady Jarrett or sweeten the deal with Kyle Pitts, plus some picks. We'll have to see how this all works. I don't have my phone is on silent right now, so I'm gonna check it when I'm done with this and see if Trey Hendricks has in fact been traded. Right now, everybody's going to be on the phone for the leader of the NFL in sacks last year. And one thing about Trey Hendricks, real quick, I think he had 17 sacks the last 2 seasons. The last 4 seasons he's been a Pro Bowler, with the last season being an All-Pro. This guy he led the NFL in sacks. Edge is a premium position. Somebody is going to try or have to possibly overpay to get him, because they're going to have to give up draft capital as well as a contract. I don't know that the Atlanta Falcons would be able to do that, but I think Trey Hendricks would be a player that you're a fool not to call about. The Carolina Panthers, we have their key free agents. Austin Corbett is their center. Xavier Woods is safety, both of whom I think they'll allow to leave. They have about $28 million in cap space and some free agency fits. Ryan Kelly, center, Alabama guy. DJ Reed, corner from the Jets. You do need a number 2 corner opposite of Joe Horn. But I think the Ryan Kelly situation, I think Ryan Kelly would be a good fit for Bryce, as well as what they're trying to build along that offensive line. He's a veteran guy, played a lot of football in college at Alabama, as well as in the pros with the Indianapolis Colts. And he was a part of one of the best offensive lines in football. Maybe he can get back to that with a younger group around him. We'll see how that goes in a new atmosphere. Draft targets: Mykel Williams, edge from Georgia, and Darian Porter, corner from Iowa State, who was becoming one of my favorite corners in the draft. The more and more I watch him, I want to say he's 6'2", and he ran a 4.30, I believe, at the combine. A very long, fast, smooth defensive back. Trade candidate: Jadeveon Clowney. How much would you be able to get for him? Not very much, but we'll see how that goes. Maybe he wants to play on a competitor as well, because he's getting up there in age. And a move that I think they should make: go out and trade for DK Metcalf. I know you've already been addressing this wide receiver situation. You got Xavier Legette. Adam Thielen is older. DK Metcalf would give Bryce something he hasn't had since being in the league, a true, legit number 1 wide receiver, where I can get him the ball, get the ball out my hands. DK is big and fast enough to catch 50-50 balls, or he can take a quick screen 70. I think he would be a nice fit with Bryce, but I do not believe that DK would want to go to Carolina. He has already stated that he wants to go to a contender. No one says they want to go to the worst teams. And the New Orleans Saints, finishing up the NFC South, we have negative $47 million in cap space. So they have 0 free agent fits. I don't think that anyone would want to go to this team with the cap situation. Kellen Moore, not really sure what he can really be. There was no coach that really wanted this gig, and Kellen Moore kind of just took it, so to speak. Some key free agents: Paulson Adebo and Chase Young. the corner and the edge respectively. Paulson Debo, I believe, is coming off an injury. Chase Young, I do not believe will be re-signed. I don't think they would even be able to bring back Paulson Debo, but I do believe that they would want him back after trading away Marshawn Lattimore last season. Some draft targets. Gray Zabel was the do-all offensive line. He can play up and down the offensive line from the North Dakota State. And Landon Jackson, the edge defensive lineman from Arkansas. Some trade candidates, Demario Davis and Cameron Jordan. I don't think this would happen. However, with how bad the cap situation is, all the magic that they'll have to move and make going into pretty much a rebuild year, you don't know the situation with your quarterback. I don't know that if I'm Demario Davis or if I'm Cam Jordan, I want to sign up again for this. Maybe they'll get traded. Maybe they'll welcome a trade. Maybe they'll call it a career. Not really sure how that works. But the move that they need to make, they're going to have to clear up cap space and they're going to have to build through the draft. Another reason why I think players like Davis and Jordan, Honey Badger could possibly be up for trade. Now moving on to the last team of the NFC, the last division, the NFC West, starting with the Los Angeles Rams, who have already re-signed Matt Stafford. They have $54 million to play with this year. Cooper Kupp is on the trade block, has already been on the trade block. Sean McVay's come out and said he would not be surprised if Kupp were to return. So maybe they'll do what the Lions, what the Eagles are reportedly doing with Darius Slay, releasing him and possibly bringing him back on a better contract. Some key free agents are Demarcus Robinson and Ahkello Witherspoon, both players who I think will be back or should be back. Demarcus Robinson really stepped up when Cooper Kupp was hurt. They did just re-sign Tutu Atwell as also. And Ahkello Witherspoon also stepped up and played pretty good football. Both players I think could be back on team decent deals. Some free agency fits. Dre Greenlaw, they need a linebacker. You're pulling him from the Niners. You're making a division rival that much weaker. And Carlton Davis, corner from the Detroit Lions, play a lot of man. He's not afraid to play man. A very physical corner. Was playing well with the Lions before he got hurt. Draft targets. Jihad Campbell's on everyone's radar. And Maxwell Hairston is a player that I think will fit perfectly with the Rams. 4'2", 40, the corner from Kentucky. Very, very aggressive, very shifty, can mirror you. Extremely good corner. And a move that I think they should make, go after Darius Slay. Go after Darius Slay. Bring him in. You're bringing in some of these young corners. Get that veteran presence back in the locker room like they tried to have when they had Tre'Davious White. But I think Darius Slay can still play. We've seen that. He may not be the number one corner anymore, but I definitely believe he can be a number two. The Seattle Seahawks have about $16 million in cap space. They released Tyler Lockett. Moments after Tyler Lockett, news broke that DK Metcalf requested a trade, and they are at least right now seeming that they're willing to oblige. They have reportedly been, I guess the price is a first-round pick. We'll see how that goes. Some key free agent, I think, would be Ernest Jones, who, like I said earlier, speaking on Jones, he found a home in Seattle. He played really well, tackling machine for Mike McDonald. Some free agent fits, I think Trayvon Moehrig and, again, Will Fries. This is not a very, very deep offensive line free agency class, so you're going to see some of those same players. Trayvon Moehrig, 26 years old, can play up and down your secondary. He can play nickel. He can play both safety positions. I think this will be a player that Mike McDonald can move around. We'll see how that goes. Some draft targets, I think Tyler Booker, one of the better guards coming out of Alabama, and Malachi Starks, the safety from Georgia. Also, I think Nick Emilwari would be good for the Seattle Seahawks as well. Mike McDonald's last year in Baltimore, they had Kyle Hamilton, big freak. Emilwari is a faster, bigger version of Kyle Hamilton. Move to make, trade DK. I don't think he'll go to the Rams, but the Raiders and the Chargers. I could definitely see it. Obviously, everyone, I ain't going to say everyone, but the Chiefs would also be obvious. Going out and getting Patrick Mahomes, a true number one receiver who's a monster like DK, that would be phenomenal. But I think the Chargers right now, I think that's who their sights are set on, DK, pairing him with Justin Herbert, giving him a true number one receiver, something that he hasn't had in some time, with the injuries to Mike Williams as well as Keenan Allen was his number one, but he was a little bit older when he got there. And he's never really been a true burner. The Arizona Cardinals, key free agents, Will Hernandez and Kaiser White. They have $75 million in cap space. So I think they're going to go and start plucking people from the Philadelphia Eagles. Two of those players that I think, Milton Williams and Mekhi Becton, are both positions of need. Milton was with Gannon when he was the DC for, if I'm not mistaken, when he was the DC for the Eagles. But I think that is something that Gannon loves, is the defensive front, having depth, having playmakers. Milton Williams was on a tear last year, especially in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl. I think he would be a good fit for the Cardinals. Some draft targets, you got Shamar Stewart. Hey, this guy went from possibly being a second-round pick, but just the traits. He doesn't have a ton of production, but how big he is, and you compare him with Robinson from last year from Missouri. Both of them guys can play up and down the line. Bringing in Milton Williams, you're starting to really get something going. Same thing if they were able to get Jalen Walker, the edge from Georgia. And I think that's probably where he's primarily going to play, is on the edge. But being 6'1", 248, 250, maybe he'll be able to be like a rush backer from the middle as well. Move I think they need to make, sign Milton Williams. I already said that one. All right, next. My bad. All right, so now we have the San Francisco 49ers, my bad. $34 million in cap space. They did just release Javon Hargrave as well. Some key free agents, Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga, the safety. Some free agency fits. Justin Reed, I think, would really solidify this back end, something that I think that they've needed. Hufanga is a really good player, but he's a bit reckless with his body, and that's led to some injuries. Carlton Davis would be probably a cheaper fit. Travarius Ward is also a free agent, their number one corner. Some draft targets I think that they should take are Jihad Campbell, pairing him up with Fred Warner, and you're replacing Greenlaw. I think that would be a phenomenal pick, even though it is, I think they pick 11. Even though it will be a top 15 pick, I personally think Jihad Campbell is worthy of it. Or Will Johnson, the corner from Michigan. And what I think that we're going to see now is the move that they will make will be Joey Bosa will be playing with his little brother in San Francisco, getting back after it with Robert Saleh and that defense, that NASCAR blitz. You know how Robert Saleh likes to get after the quarterback. The Bosa boys there it's also been taught that Hargroves could come back on another reduced deal. So we'll see how that works as well. But right now, this is my pre-free agency offseason outlook. I will have some free agency videos and things coming with free agency starting Tuesday, I believe. So right now, this was the NFC. Stay tuned for the AFC. Again, do me that favor, like, share, and subscribe. I really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you for checking out D's Corner, where we keep you locked with all your football talk. Have a good one.
Spazzing on the beat, they think I'm crazy. Got it under control, babe. You don't want smoke, all you see is the same.
LB tapping, keys in making waves. Ay.
Step back, keep your distance. Ain't no telling what I just may do. I've been vibing, minding my business. Throw one up if you can relate to. Said if I ain't got it, I make do. Can't be stuck waiting on a breakthrough. And I don't need everybody praying for me. Ain't no telling who you niggas pray to.